Hello everyone, and welcome to a sort of a mod spotlight slash tutorial. This is Applied Energistics, which is a new mod to the Direwolf 20 pack and others, which allows you to do some really cool stuff as well as gigantically minimize the space requirements for large storage. So first things first, new world gen. And that is a singular block over here, which is quartz crystal. Mining this will get you some actual crystals, it'll also get you some quartz crystal dust. You can compress the dust into a crystal, and you can vice versa macerate the crystal to get the dust, and they are both useful. Another quick little thing that's made is sort of the Amish equivalent of a macerator. This is a wooden crank and a quartz grindstone. You stick blocks in here, you stick items in here, such as ore blocks, and also including wheat to make flour, which will each macerate into, which will each cook into a bread. I don't know quite why that was added, but it's a nice touch. So you stick stuff in here, it goes through here, and it needs to go out there. And it functions by you right-clicking this crank, so it is very, very hands-on. And then we have some tools. Just for comparison, we have the iron pickaxe, which has a 250 durability, as all of these tools do. That's because these are actually the equivalent of iron. So if you happen to have some quartz spare while you're out in the mines, as it were, you can put together a tool like this. So there's the quartz pickaxe, there's the quartz sword, the quartz shovel, the quartz axe, hoe, the wrench, which doesn't work on most things, but it does work on all of the items inside of Applied Energistics. And then there's these two high-level ones, the vibration catalyst and the entropy accelerator. Now these require industrial craft power. If you don't have industrial craft installed, they don't use any charge at all, but they do use a fair bit of charge when they function. That's that thing. So the entropy accelerator cools things, so it will turn water into ice. It will also turn lava into obsidian. And the vibration catalyst is sort of its reverse, sort of. So if I use it on this piece of iron, it becomes an iron ingot, which I don't quite see the purpose of, simply because, well, you're better off macerating this stuff, but not that big an issue. So now onto the main bulk of this entire thing, which is the machines. The machines, but we'll start off with the cables that you're going to need, because Applied Energistics uses a thing called an ME network. ME stands for matter energy, and all of your machines need to be linked together, with the exception of 3, which I'll talk about in a quick moment. So the basic one you can have is the ME cable. This is a fairly cheap thing. I'm not really going to be focusing on the different crafting recipes, because I'm assuming that you're using this inside of FTB and such, where you can quite happily look up the recipes yourself as long as you have the name. So I've got the names everywhere. There's the dark cable, which functions like the ME cable, but if it's receiving a redstone signal, it cuts off. So it's mostly useful for disconnecting parts of your ME network when you, for example, want to do something special with them. There's also the ME level emitter, which looks for a certain item in your network, and it checks if you have more or less that volume of items. You can uncheck it to emit when it's on or below, depending on what you want to do with it. So you can use that in combination with the dark cable to attach and deconnect parts of your network as needed. Then there is the 3 inventory management sections. We have the import bus, the storage bus, and the export bus. Pretty much do what they say on the tin. The import bus can suck in items. If you leave this area blank, it will suck in every item in the attached inventory. You can control it with redstone, and you can also have it move single items or entire stacks. The storage bus lets you add alternative storage items, like a barrel from factorization, for example, and regular chests, to what your network recognizes. So whereas the input bus will send things directly into your storage network, the storage bus is for adding external storage onto it. And you can also have this function as a filter as well. A lot of these have their own built-in inventories and filters, which is very handy over things like red power. And then there is the export bus, and that is sort of the reverse of the import, in that it will shunt out anything that you want. If this filter isn't actually set to anything, it won't do anything, unlike the import bus. And it's the same thing, although it can attach to the crafting system, and I shall cover that in a bit, because that's actually one of the later stage kind of issues, but this is mostly used for dumping things in your network out to somewhere else. So for example, if you're trying to shift things into a cart or a train. Okay, so all of these machines, this is going to be a pretty big one. We have the crafting monitor. Don't worry, the rain auto clears itself here. The crafting monitor lets you attach to your network and see what things it is presently trying to attach. So there's the list of things it's trying to get, it's the materials it's trying to find, and up here will be what it's presently trying to craft. And you can shuffle through all the different items that are on that list that the system is trying to craft. Again, that's part of the higher tier stuff. There's the I/O port, which lets you transfer data from one storage cell to another and vice versa. So you can do all sorts of things. That's very handy if you're trying to carry around a certain storage cell for on-the-go storage, and then you have to shift it into the storage and whatnot. So yep. And there is the crafting terminal, which is like the regular terminal plus a crafting bench, so you can access all of the materials in your network and then use them to craft. Also has the functionality of a project table, which is that if you craft something and there is still the resources in your network to continue crafting it, it will refill it right in there in the crafting menu. You can search for items, as so did there. You can sort them by a variety of things, and you can also take a look at the different things that you have. So you can view the stored items, the craftable items, and both. Personally, I usually go with both. There's the storage monitor, which will give you a visual indicator, sort of like the face of a barrel, as to how much of a certain item is in your network. Point of note, it is set by right-clicking with the item on the monitor, but it also recognizes when you're right-clicking with an empty hand, so that is a very easy way to blank the monitor. So you might want to pay attention to that. Now, most of these, you'll notice, have wires behind them. If their face looks a bit weird, it probably means that you don't have power, and that's where this comes in, the ME controller. And this is basically the network's battery. You can power it in a couple of different ways, which I'll show off in a second. And if you right-click it, it gives you this big list of all the things that are presently attached, including the wire. More wire does use up more power. You can see how much power it's using, in this case 25 units per tick. And there's these two slots on the side, which are used for the wireless terminal. This is the big important piece, the ME drive. This stores storage cells, and it can hold 10 of them. So you'll see very quickly how dense you can get storage to be. Next up, for your particular wondering about tastes, there is the wireless access point. If you attach one of these to your network, it is sort of a focal point around which you can right-click on this wireless terminal, which is a handheld crafting thing, and it will then allow you to access your network as you would a terminal. It doesn't allow you to craft in it, I should note, unless you've got the crafting assembly set up. And this has a default range of 16 blocks, but you can add a wireless booster to it to make it 17, so on and so forth, to a maximum of 16, so a maximum range of 32 points, but you can have more than one wireless access point on your network, so you can cover your entire house in them, for example, and be able to craft and whatnot from everywhere. Now, the basic thing for accessing your network is this ME terminal. You right-click it, and like the crafting menu, you can actually access all of the materials that you have stored. Again, you can't craft in this, and it's sort of like the default, the basic, the lowest level possible access, but it does, however, mean you can access every single stored item you have from one block. Now that makes it sort of like the router from factorization with regards to barrels, except that you can see the exact numbers and you can take out exact volumes. You don't have to worry about anything, and you can access them all individually, which is fantastic. And then we have the ME chest. Fairly straightforward. This is the simplest way of interacting with storage cells. So you just stick them up here, you apply some kind of power, and then everything becomes visible inside this main big dark area. It's presently dark because there isn't a storage cell here. The ME interface allows you to have the network interact with other systems, including systems that are using Buildcraft pipes or red power tubes. You can also hook it onto furnaces and such to have it directly output stuff to there, and you can also use it to import, so you can pump things into it, they will go directly into the network. You can have it output certain items, and also in certain volumes. So if you say put a stack of sticky pistons here, it will constantly try to have 64 sticky pistons here. And the processing is, again, for assembly, you stick encoded patterns here, and they will automatically be recognized when the system is trying to craft something, but again, go to that a bit. Now these three do not need any power at all. That's not even like connected to the network. They don't need to worry about it at all. The chest, however, can use buildcraft, industrial craft, and the actual network. The pattern provider is sort of a storage spot for encoded patterns for crafting. You don't really generally see this outside of an assembler chamber, but it's still handy as a storage device. There's the pre-formatter, which is used with storage cells, so you can give them a name, and you can specify specifically what they can store. For example, if you want to make a storage cell dedicated to storing cobblestone, which is entirely likely. You can also clear them out, which is nice, just deformat them. And then there is the pattern encoder. This is used for letting the system know what, various crafting recipes. And what's very interesting is, whilst it will default to what you could normally craft here, so say if you put like a plank, a wooden log for example, it will show the equivalent number of planks here. You can actually encode it to use anything. So I could put sand in here and a piece of glass here, and then encode it by putting the pattern there. That doesn't exist in reality, but the system will recognize it, and you can use that to set up automatic smelting of items. So now on to power. Well, as I said, you can power it using buildcraft, and you can power it using industrial craft, but it has to go into the actual controller. Yeah, I don't recall if I actually put some fuel in here, so let's sort that out in a moment. There we go. And off we go, and we should see the power build up in both of these. As you can see, there is the animated faces on these, so they do actually show up how much power they have. These are just like very low level stuff, so it's going fairly slow, but over there, as you saw, we can have them fully charged, and they do have a very nice display for that. And it's worth noting that they use up power per tick. If you remember that little energy used per tick sign, that is constant, so this does continually eat up power, so ideally you'll have a fairly stable source of power. The second thing is the cables. If you have 8 cables in a chest formation around a die, you can make a special color of cable. So here I happen to have some green and some blue, and as you can see, they don't connect. You can use this to keep systems separate, and what's more, if you place an ME block like the controller or here the chest against a colored piece of wire, it will not function with regards to any other ones. But if you want to actually get them to connect, then we have the standard cable which will connect to all colors. And now we get onto the big part, which is the storage. So as I said, the disk drive controls access to various storage cells. These are the storage cells, and most of them require the central component of the previous step to make. The 1K storage is the simplest and most straightforward. It's fairly cheap, and it holds 1024 bytes and 63 types. The types determines the kind of item that you're putting in, so say stone, dirt, cobblestone, gravel, diamond, that kind of thing. You can have 63 different types inside of a given cell, and they all have 63 types maximum. What changes is the bytes. The bytes allows them to store a higher number, so that's the actual quantity volume, the chest size, if you will. And you can pre-format them to only take certain types. So, one example that I have is over here. Here we have the pre-formatter, which I've used to create 1 or 2 different things, and in the disk drive, when the disk drive has power, it shows the status of each cell, and you can see these are actually positional, so directly correspond. So here I've got a storage cell. This is a 1K storage cell that is pre-formatted to only take quartz crystal, of which it has 25 in. And you can see that is showing up as orange. Orange means it has no more space for different types of item, but does still have space for items. So for example, if it needed, if it only takes in quartz crystal, but it has space for another 32 crystals, it'll turn up as orange. The red is a similar situation, except it is maxed out. It is absolutely full. And this one, for example, has 1024 bytes of quartz crystal. Allow me to show you why I'm really enjoying this, using this safe, this chest, because 1024 bytes of quartz crystal is 8,128 quartz crystal. So, that is quite huge. I can't even begin to pick that up. That's how huge this is. This means that a standard lowest tier storage cell, and you can have 10 of these in a disk drive, is bigger than a factorization barrel. Worth keeping in mind that. And of course, if it does have room for more types and it does have more room for more items, that's down here where it turns up green, so that's handy. Most of these systems have sort of animated, conditionally based phases on them, so the crafting motor, the controller, and in this case the disk drive. If the system doesn't have power, they all turn off, so it's a very easy way of telling that you're out of power. So let's see what kind of uses we can put these to. Well, over here I have a fairly simplistic and straightforward thing. I've got an ender chest, which is going to be feeding items in, because behind it I have an import bus sucking things out. Generator, MFE, just powering the controller, which is at full charge. And I've got a disk drive. All of these are pre-formatted to different stuff, so say if I was inputting stuff from a quarry, and then I've got a terminal where I can access everything. Now inside the terminal you can see that it doesn't actually have stacks of them, it has the item and then the absolute number, so each individual item can turn up as more than 64 without taking up more than 64 slots. And if I need to, I can search it, which is nice, but what if I want to be able to see what's happening without clicking on a terminal or something? Well, again, we can cover this. So, piece of cable here, and all of these have turned up. Now I basically have like a barrel view of everything. So I can see that, for example, I don't have any gold, and I don't have any marble. Well, maybe I'll go and search to check that out. But what if I'm trying to craft something? Well, we continue. Over here, I have another similar setup, so we're still sucking in items from a quarry. I have expanded my storage, and these are maxed out storage cells. These are gigantic things. And I've got a wireless point, so I can access from range. And I have this crafting terminal. So now I can see everything. So let's say, let's try and make some sticky pistons, shall we? Well, we've got a piston here, so let's grab that, and we've got some slime balls. And that gets us a sticky piston, but oh, well, I see we're out of normal pistons. Again, I can repeat the same process, and it will refill it as much as it can. You saw it kept the slime ball there. But what if I don't have a crafting terminal? What if I want to have the system craft things automatically? Sure, that seems like a good idea, doesn't it? Well, that is also covered. Over here, we have the molecular assembly chamber. This is the so far only multi-block structure in Applied Energistics, and it is formed from these four main blocks, which is the assembler containment wall, which has to go along every edge of the main structure in multi-size, so you can have it as small as a 3x3 and it goes up pretty damn huge. I don't know what the actual cap is on scale, but I don't find much reason to have more than the 5x5. There's the heat vent, which covers the rest of the sides, so in this example it's just the one in the middle there. In that example it's the 3x3 on the sides. Inside you don't need any crafting CPUs, but it's ideal if you do have more of them, because what the crafting CPU lets the system do is craft more than one thing at a time. And there is the pattern provider, which is the main important thing. It is the absolute minimum that you need inside of this center. It holds all of the crafting recipes. So you put that together and it makes a nice shape. You can stick the recipes in whilst you're crafting or after. Here I've got them installed after. And these are made using the pattern encoder, and if I hold shift I can see a view of all the things that these turn out. So I've got ones for glass panes, I've got one for redstone torches, and for sticks and planks, which doesn't seem that impressive, does it? But we have a purpose to this. Because over here I have my pattern encoder. You put your your blank pattern there, you put your recipes around here, and you hit encode and it turns blue. So I've got a storage full of items. Some storage, I'd say. A bit more than I'm using right now, but 4 of 63, 2088, and I've got some stuff in here. Let's say that I want more than one redstone repeater. Well, if I take it out, I can see that not much is happening. But over here we have all of our assemblers, don't we? And I just have a crafting terminal here, and let's switch over to what we can craft, shall we? So I have a recipe in there for the redstone repeater. I don't have any stone, I don't have any sticks, I don't have any redstone torches, but I have the recipe for the redstone repeater. So let's tell it to craft 10 of them. So now, as we can see over here, our interface has fed some stone into our electric furnace. And it's only done that for free stone, because it's only covering the one piece of repeater right now. But it did that because the interface is coded to know that it can make stone from cobblestone, which the assembly chamber has recognized and sent its cobblestone over to the furnace. The furnace is then getting sucked out by this import, which is then adding it to the whole system. So now, we are slowly acquiring more redstone repeaters, and we're also having the wood turn into planks, which is then turning into sticks, and then redstone torches. So all of our resources are being happily added together to craft all of the things that we want. And if I had a wireless terminal, I would be able to right-click, open up this window, and craft them as well. So I can craft, and I can access my entire network and craft entirely on the go. So that is the basics, more or less, of Applied Energistics. It is a fantastic mod. I highly recommend you check it out. I'm definitely going to be using it a lot in Chaosville. And that's it for today, so catch you later.